The biting November wind whipped around the freshly dug grave, carrying the scent of damp earth and pine. Julia's funeral was a somber affair, the silence broken only by the occasional sob. John, her fiancé, stood stiffly, his grief a palpable thing. He hadn't been able to bring himself to look at the casket, the polished wood a cruel mockery of the vibrant life it contained. Julia, the girl who'd seen the beauty in the wild places, who'd rescued a tiny, shivering wolf cub and named him Charlie. Charlie, now a magnificent young wolf, usually kept at a wildlife refuge, was inexplicably restless. He'd escaped his enclosure that morning, a low growl rumbling in his chest, a primal unease evident in his amber eyes. Now, as the priest began the final rites, Charlie lunged forward, a blur of gray fur. He landed with a thump on the casket, his mournful howls echoing through the hushed cemetery. Panic erupted. People screamed, backing away from the powerful animal. John, numb with grief, felt a surge of something akin to anger, then a wave of unbearable sadness. This was the final, heartbreaking detail. Even Charlie, her loyal companion, was mourning her passing. Attempts to coax Charlie away were futile. He refused to budge, his paws braced against the polished wood, his head resting gently on the lid. His mournful whines were heartbreaking, a symphony of grief that pierced the hearts of everyone present. The undertaker, a weathered man who'd seen his share of sorrow, cautiously approached. He tried to gently nudge the wolf away, but Charlie bared his teeth, a low growl rumbling in his chest, a clear warning. The scene became chaotic. Whispers turned to murmurs, then to open discussion. Someone suggested sedating Charlie, but the thought of harming the already distraught animal seemed cruel. Finally, John, in a voice thick with tears, made a desperate plea. "Leave him. Let him stay." Later, the strange scene prompted a whispered discussion among the family. Julia's mother, a woman of strong will and unshakable faith, suggested something radical, a re-examination. Julia had a history of severe epileptic seizures. Could a particularly violent seizure have been misinterpreted as death? The decision was made. Reluctantly, the casket was opened. Charlie, still stubbornly nestled on the body, lifted his head and whimpered, his amber eyes fixed on Julia's pale face. And then, the doctor gasped. Julia's chest moved, a shallow, almost imperceptible rise and fall. Her pulse, faint but undeniable, was there. It wasn't death, but a rare condition, catalepsy. A state of apparent death, triggered by a seizure, leaving her body in a rigid, lifelike stillness. Charlie, with his uncanny sensitivity, his deep bond with Julia, had somehow sensed the faintest signs of life, refusing to abandon her even in death's apparent embrace. Julia, slowly recovering, was overwhelmed by the events. She had been so close to death, yet she lived to tell the tale, thanks to the extraordinary loyalty of a wolf. When she was strong enough, she married John. Charlie, the unlikely hero, was the guest of honor.